So when preparing the 27C256 to be modified to be able to plug into the printed circuit board, first it has to be programmed. So using an EEPROM programmer, program the level 2 basic into the device and verify it's good. Then we're going to take the pins that are extended out here and we're going to bend those up so that they point straight out from the package. And on the pin there's the wide part that's the shoulder and there's the narrow part that plugs into the socket. We're going to trim off the narrow part, leaving only the wide part that was the shoulder. From there we're going to put a jumper wire from pin 1 to pin 28, and then we're going to extend a wire off of pin 28 that'll go onto the PC board to pick up main power, the plus 5 VCC rail. We'll add a wire to come off of pin 26 that'll go to the main board to pick up A13, wire off this pin to A11, and a wire off this pin to pick up A12. We're also going to jumper a wire from pin 27 to pin 20 and from those pins to ground. This will hold A14 low as we need for this. The 12K occupies the lower half of the device. And this will set the output enable low, enabling the outputs. Chip enable is picked up through pin 22, so when chip enable is low, the device will output the correct data during that time and be tri-state any other time. So as you can see, there's really 7 pins that get bent out here, 3 of them so they don't make contact into the socket. These 3 pins cannot make contact into the socket when the device is plugged in. And these are simply bent up and trimmed to keep them from touching other components on the circuit board or traces beneath them. So here's a few donor EEPROMs that have been pulled out of old gear. I'm not sure what these came out of. There's 8 different 256s here. You'll need to remove any kind of labels off of them like we have on these devices. The labels are covering up the little quartz window that the UV light comes through to erase the devices. A couple things to note in this little close-up picture here is this device is programmed at 12.5 volts. EEPROMs use 25 volts typically, or 12.5 volts to program. If you were to select a 27256 device in your EEPROM programmer that used a 25 volt VPP, it would destroy the device. So be cautious of that. A couple of the things to note is I'm not sure what speed this device is. It's not indicated on here. Typically you'll see a number like -4, which would be a 400 nanosecond part, -3, 300 nanosecond, -2, 200 nanosecond, -25, 250, -15, 150, -12, 120, etc. I don't know the minimum speed requirement in the Model 1. In this case, I'm going to assume these will be quick enough. We have to check some data sheets and look at the Model 1 specs to try to figure it out. Here's a little UV erase oven. I've got a part in both sides of this. The little quartz windows are facing in, and this is producing ultraviolet light, which is erasing the devices. As a note, many of you won't have access to an EEPROM eraser, potentially an EEPROM programmer. I will be also doing this with a 28C256 EE ROM device. The pinout is slightly different, so we will need to modify a little bit the drawings when we go through it. That might be a more accessible device for most people, and I'm also probably going to go ahead and do this with one of my 29F010s. It's a 1 megabit flash. I've got a bunch of them. Again, the pinout is different and it requires a different connection diagram, but all the concepts are the same. So there's a quick look at the EEPROMs. So I've gone ahead and downloaded a level 2 basic ROM image. This is ROM version 1.2. It's sitting here. It's 12 KB in size, no surprise. It's a 12 kilobit ROM. I've got my Velon EEPROM programmer software loaded up. I've actually picked a different device from what we looked at a minute ago for this. So let's go ahead and select the device, and this is in find it here in the list. Hopefully it's here. It's an ST Micro, and it's a 27C256B. Hopefully we'll find it in the list here. There it is. Although I wish it said ST on the front. Well, that looks like the closest match we're going to get. Let's go ahead and load the ROM image. It's a ROM file, so we're going to load it as binary. We're going to start it at address 0. If we go on in and take a look in the editor, what we loaded, we can see right here where it says memory size Radio Shack level 2 basic, so we know it's read it correctly. We actually see the ASCII text there, which is a nice indication. And of course you can scroll through the rest here and find various text tables and things. It's not super exciting. We hit on this earlier. We're only using the first 12K of the ROM, so the rest of 27C256 is filled with all ones or FFs. So let's give this a shot and see if it'll program. I'm using a Well-On VP390 programmer. I do have the external 9-volt power supply hooked up to it because I've got to generate the higher voltages for VPP. Let's see if the device is actually erased, which it is. It's been about a half hour in my little UV eraser. Yeah. So let's go ahead and program it and see what we get. Auto program OK. Verify. And I do believe we've got a good 27C256 here programmed. That'll be a perfect little candidate. This device, I believe, is a 150 nanosecond device, which I know will be plenty fast for this application. So there it is. We've picked our device, we've programmed it, we've verified it, and hopefully it'll work.